120 degrees. Hot enough to cook an egg on open ground. Hot enough that the air itself feels like it's pressing down on your skin. At that temperature, your body starts losing over a liter of water every single hour. Just from sweat, just from standing still and existing. Lose 15% of the water in your body and you die. In a desert like this, that can happen in a single day. Now take away everything you would use to fight it. No water bottle, no shade structure trucked in from somewhere else. No air conditioning, no GPS to find the next well. No convenience store on the horizon. Just you, an endless sheet of sand and rock stretching further than you can see, and a sun with absolutely no mercy in it. Here's the honest truth. If you were dropped into that world right now, exactly as you are, you would very likely be dead within 2 days. Not from animals, not from getting lost, not really from the heat and the thirst alone. 120 degrees does not care how clever you are, how strong you are, or how much you want to live. And yet, for tens of thousands of years, humans with no technology, no maps, and no modern anything at all didn't just survive in deserts like this. They lived in them permanently, raised children in them, built entire cultures around some of the harshest, driest, most punishing land on the planet. The question is how? And the answer is a series of genius, desperate, brilliant adaptations that are the only reason so many humans still call these places home today. Let's start with the first thing that seems completely backward, what you actually wear. Your instinct, standing in that heat, would be to strip down. Take off as much as possible. Get your skin into the open air. It feels obvious, and it is almost exactly the wrong thing to do, because desert peoples across the world, from the Sahara to Arabia to the deserts of the American Southwest, arrived at the same solution, independently again and again. Cover up. Not with heavy, tight clothing, but with loose flowing robes, wrapped headscarves, and long, breathable layers that trap a thin cushion of air against the skin. That trapped air becomes something remarkable, a personal shade tent that moves with you. It blocks direct sunlight from ever touching your skin at all, while still letting sweat evaporate underneath and carry heat away. Bare skin in that sun can climb far hotter than the air around it. Skin under loose, pale fabric stays dramatically cooler. The people who figured this out thousands of years ago were essentially engineering personal climate control out of woven cloth, long before anyone understood a single word of thermodynamics. When you see a Bedouin or a Tuareg wrapped head to foot in flowing white in the middle of the Sahara, you are looking at a survival technology so effective that stripping down next to them would get you killed faster. But clothing only slows the damage. Eventually, you still need water. And in the deepest deserts, there often isn't any. Not on the surface. Not anywhere you can see. So what do you do when the land offers you nothing to drink? The answer is one of the most astonishing things in the entire human story. You learn to read the ground itself. Desert peoples became masters of finding water that was completely invisible to an untrained eye. They tracked dry riverbeds, called wadis, and dug down through the sand at specific bends where water still moved silently beneath the surface. They read plants like a language, because certain roots and grasses only grow where moisture sits close underground, and digging beneath them could mean the difference between life and death. In the Kalahari, the sand people took this even further. They buried ostrich eggs, emptied and refilled with water, at hidden points across their territory, sometimes months in advance, creating an invisible network of canteens scattered across hundreds of square miles of open desert. A traveler moving through that land wasn't just wandering. They were moving between memorized points on a map that existed nowhere but inside their own head. Think about what that actually means. In a landscape that looks to us like nothing but empty sand in every direction, these people saw a hidden network of wells, roots, and buried water layered invisibly over the surface like a second secret world. And once you have water and shade sorted, there is a third weapon in the human arsenal that almost nothing else on this planet has: your own body's ability to sweat. Humans are, without real competition, the best heat-dumping mammals alive. We have millions of sweat glands and almost no fur to trap that heat against our skin, which means we can shed warmth through evaporation far faster than almost any other animal our size. A horse, a wolf, an antelope, all of them overheat and have to stop running in extreme heat far sooner than a human does. And ancient hunters weaponized this directly through something now called persistence hunting. In the punishing heat of the day, when every other predator had retreated to whatever shade shade it could find. A human could simply keep walking, keep jogging, follow an animal for hours, sometimes an entire day, never faster than the prey, but never stopping either, until the animal's body finally overheated and gave out from underneath it. In the very conditions that should have been killing them, they turned their own sweat into the deadliest hunting weapon on the savannah. So now you're dressed for it. You know where the water is and your own biology is working in your favor. But there is still the matter of simply getting through the hottest hours of the day, and ancient desert peoples solved this with something almost embarrassingly simple. They stopped fighting the sun's schedule and started living by it instead. Through the brutal middle hours of the day, when the sun sat directly overhead and the ground itself could blister bare feet, they didn't move. They rested, deep in whatever shade they could find: tents, rock overhangs, dugout shelters half buried in cooler earth below the surface. Then, as the sun dropped toward the horizon, the entire rhythm of life started up. Herding, traveling, hunting, building, all of it shifted into the cooler hours of early morning and evening, and often deep into the night itself, guided by starlight across landscapes they knew like the backs of their own hands. They didn't outmuscle the desert's heat. They simply refused to be where it was worst. Clothing, water intelligence, a body built to sweat, and a life scheduled around the sun. Genius, every piece of it. But there is one more thing about human survival in extreme heat that is so strange it barely sounds real. Some human populations may have quietly evolved their own internal water-saving machinery. Geneticists studying the Turkana people of northern Kenya, who live in one of the driest, hottest landscapes on Earth and can spend hours a day just tracking down water, sequenced hundreds of their genomes looking for the fingerprints of evolution. And they found one sitting right on top of a gene called STC1, a gene that helps the kidneys respond when the body senses it is dehydrated. The signal was so strong and so recent that researchers could estimate it had been under active selection for roughly 7,000 years, right around the time the region dried out and herding life began. The same signature turned up in a second related desert community hundreds of miles away. It suggests that after thousands of years under a merciless sun and a punishing shortage of water, natural selection didn't just shape how these communities dressed or where they walked. It may have reached inside the body itself and fine-tuned the plumbing. It is a single, well-documented case, not proof that every desert population evolved the same way. But sit with what it suggests for just a moment, that somewhere in our past, under the weight of a punishing enough environment, the human body itself can start adapting to thirst at the level of our DNA. So let's put it all together and really see what your ancestors were up against and what they actually did about it. They faced a sun that could reach 120 degrees and hotter, land that offered no visible water for miles in any direction, a world that could take 15% of the water from their bodies and end them before nightfall, a place that should, by every rule of nature, have been uninhabitable for a soft, water-hungry ape like us, and instead we thrived there. We wrapped ourselves in cloth and turned trapped air into personal shade. We read dry riverbeds and buried plants like a hidden map to water no one else could see. We turned our own sweat into a hunting weapon that outlasted every other animal on the plain. We rebuilt our entire daily rhythm around the movement of the sun. And in some of the harshest deserts on Earth, our bodies may have even started adapting from the inside out. Every one of those scorching days, for tens of thousands of years, was a test that could have ended entire communities right there. And time and again, your ancestors passed it. They stood in front of the most punishing heat on the planet, a heat that could kill them in under 2 days, and they simply refused to die. You will complain about the heat this summer. You'll crank up the air conditioning, grab a cold drink from the fridge, and forget all about it within seconds. They walked into 120 degrees with nothing but cloth, memory, sweat, and the sun itself as their clock. And the fact that they won generation after generation is the only reason there are people alive today who still call the desert home.